Hello, everyone. Well, it is a blessing to be back here, and welcome to Girl Ghetto Podcast. I'm your host, Tracey Davies. Um, it is an exciting time to just come back, and today, guess what we're talking about? We will be talking about overcoming the 5 stages of grief. Let me just talk about this. For those who don't know, 2021, I lost my mother, and how it all started. 2013, I petitioned for my mom and my daughter. They're both back home. Excuse me. And the process took so long, but 2021, I got an email and it says, your paperwork has been approved. And I was excited. It was July 16th. I still remember. I called my mom back home and I told her, I said, guess what, Mom? Your paperwork has been approved. And my mom was excited. I told everyone I work, I was excited. But for some reason, I told my co-workers, I said, if something happened to my mother, I would live with the guilt the rest of my life. And I don't know why I told her that, told them that. So I called my mom back home. I told her, I said, just wait. Everything, has been, with proof, and we're just waiting for the letter for her to go and do her interview and then, come. Within that time, my husband went back home and he saw my mother. He saw my mom on the 20th of July. He went to her place. They called me on FaceTime. I talked to my mom, and my mom looked okay. She looked well. The 22nd, he came back to America, and within that time, I got a promotion at work. So I called my girlfriend and I talked to her, and she was like, what, calm down here to Charlotte so we can, celebrate your promotion. And I said, I don't know, but we talk about it. So the following week, I get a phone call. It was on a Thursday, the 29th of July. I get this phone call, and my sister said, well, Mom is sick and they need some money. Thank God, within time I had some money that I was keeping to do some work, back home. But I said, okay, they need the money. So I send the money. It was in the morning time. I was at work, and they called back and said, it's late back home now, but we'll take her tomorrow. So I said, okay. Few hours later, I get a phone call. My brother-in-law and my auntie, everyone there in the car, and they're just crying, And he's driving, but he was like, the Oma is in the car, but she's not responding. I said, what? He said, yes. We talked on the phone until they got there. They sat in the car. When they got there, they waited for a doctor to, come outside and see her. All this time, I'm on the phone with them. On FaceTime, my aunt is crying, my daughter, my cousins, everyone, they're just all crying. Within that time, maybe after 5 to 10 minutes, they sat in the car. A guy came outside in a lab coat, and this was supposed to have been the doctor. So he went in the car. He looked at my mom, and he came back and said, "Oh, your mom is dead." At the time, he said, "Your mom is dead." I said, "What?" He said, "Yes, your mother." Tongue came out of her mouth, and her pupils are rolled back. Your mom is dead. I said, "What?" So I said, "You know what? Put the phone to my mom ear. Let me pray." Because my mother, she was a prayer warrior. She taught me how to pray when I was, a kid. So he said, I can't, because I'm at work, but let me pass the phone to your in-law. I said, okay. So he passed him the phone. When I sat on the phone, I just started crying. I said, "Mom, wake up," for about 10 minutes. I did that. Of course, my mom was there, but in that moment, I was in denial, stage one of grieving. I was in denial. So after that, I told my in-law. He said, I have the money that you sent. Mind you, they didn't even get down. They were still in the car. She died on their way to the hospital. 2021 July 29th. He said, "Okay, I still have the money, but let's use the money and go, to the um mortuary." So I said, "Okay." So they stay in the car and they took my mother. It was so I couldn't believe that my mother has just died. Um, my sister and I, we were planning to go home in December. I joined this susu and I was supposed to get $5,000. That was the money I planned to use to go back home. I got the money. Now the $5,000, I was planning to go back home. I had to use that money to go back home now and bury my mother. So the next day I got home, I got phone calls from everywhere and I was broken. I didn't know what to do because for 20 something years I didn't see my mother. I don't know why I waited for so long to go home and see my mother. When I finally decided I was going home to see my mother, she died. I talked to her maybe like a week prior to her death. She seemed okay. Nothing was wrong with her. But my mind was gone. Stage one. I was in denial. My boss said, "Don't drive home. Let me, take you home," because I was at work. And I said, "No, I can, go home by myself." I got in my car. I almost ran into another car right in the parking lot. But I managed. I got home. I went to my room, shut the door. I didn't go back to work for a couple of days. Everybody started calling from Africa, from America, my sisters, my aunties and uncle. And I'm the oldest of my siblings on my mother's side. So now everything is on my head. Before I come to an end of stage one, I want to talk to everyone. If you're watching this, if you have loved ones back home, make it your duty to go to Africa every year to see them. Every year, it is so important because you don't know what will happen. I paid tuition for my mom, and it took so long. I think it took over 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. And I have to admit that I wasn't intentional about it. Like my manager will always say, "You have to be intentional about stuff. You have to be, Tracey, you have to be intentional." I was not intentional about it. When I became intentional, it was too late. It was too late. My mother was gone. I've just talked to her. I saw her on on the phone, on video, just like that. I lost my mother. So to all of us, those of us abroad here, whether it is your auntie, whosoever you have back home, go back home every year if you can. Go and see them. I don't know, again, I repeat, I don't know why it took me so long to wait. Looking back, I made some mistakes that I would like to share with you guys. After my mother died, and we decided to plan to go back home, my siblings and I began to reflect and say, what did I do wrong? I made an investment, $10,000, that I should have used that money to work, to be intentional, which I did not do. One more time, make it your duty to go to Africa, those of you watching this. And I say this with love. And I say this because the death of a mother, your father, or whosoever that you have back home, once they're gone, they are gone. The loss of a mother, a father, a child, of a wife, a husband, it hits differently. It is painful. It is painful. You never get over the death of your mother, your father, or wife, or husband. You learn to cope with the fact that they are gone. If anything that you will take away from this podcast, I want to tell everyone watching this. If you have family members back home, make it your duty to go to Liberia every year. Watch this podcast and be blessed. I'll see you on stage 2. Bye.